Hey everybody, welcome to the Invest Answers Weekly News Flash. So much good news to cover today. Let's just jump in. But as usual, with my news, no frills, no shills, just data-driven analysis. So a quick disclaimer for everybody. This is not financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. Second of all, I do everything using numbers to arrive at data-driven decisions to help make money. So, good news. Lots and lots and lots of good news. Let's jump right in. First of all, Satoshi Nakamoto is now the 27th richest man in the world. He's worth about $50 billion, and he has now $20 billion more than Steve Jobs' wife, the founder of Apple. That is a big, big, big move to be in. Second of all, 68%. What does that number mean? Well, 68% is the Bitcoin gain year to date. Now, a lot of people just wish Bitcoin could move faster and they're quite impatient. But think about a 68% return in 6 weeks. Pretty impressive. So please, everybody, don't get too greedy. Don't expect miracles. This is already mind-blowingly good. Third thing, I want to talk a little bit about some of the absolutely staggering thing. So what Bitcoin is actually doing, it is minting new millionaires every single day. And as usual, I like to get into the numbers. So it occurred to me last night, all right, Bitcoin has gone from $27,000 to $50,000. When I stratify the ownership of coins, and you look at people with 20 coins, when Bitcoin hits $50,000, that's $1 million. Anybody with 20 coins or more has $1 million in Bitcoin right now. And that is big. So let's try to figure out exactly how many new Bitcoin millionaires have been minted every day so far in 2021. So as usual, got to my numbers, did some crunching, and I calculated that 33,354 new millionaires have been created from Bitcoin alone since the 1st of January 2021. That is 741 newly minted millionaires every day in 2021. And remember, that's for the 20 plus tranche of Bitcoin owners. As Bitcoin goes up in price, those that have 10 or more will be the next set of people becoming millionaires. Talking about some more numbers for a second. I think Willy Woo must have seen my number 4 video, but he came out with a cool tweet today, and that was the number 4 trillion. And why is that relevant? Basically, he said 4 trillion of cash is sitting in U.S. non-financial corporations, i.e. non-banks, etc. And 4 trillion is also the gold's financial cap. That's the working capital of gold used for financial services. And 4 trillion is also the Bitcoin projected cap for the end of this year based on current models. So let's dig into those numbers for a second and make sure we all get it. First of all, 4 trillion in treasuries. If 1% goes into Bitcoin, that will bump the price of Bitcoin up by 40,000. So it could easily help us arrive at a 90,000 price just from 1% of treasuries in the year 2021 going into Bitcoin. Not a big move. It's already happening at a large extent. And I know if we're in the US and other parts of the world, there's boardrooms now debating how much they should put in and how to figure out their on-ramps so they can get it fast, because they know that every week they wait, they're actually losing money. And I'll talk more about that in a couple of slides. The other thing that's interesting to note is gold's financial cap. Everybody's talking about the flippening of gold. That could actually happen as well. I think once 4 trillion happens, basically you could consider Bitcoin being on par with gold. And of course, finally, the projected cap of 4 trillion for Bitcoin, that is basically a 4x from where we are today, about $200,000. Now, my Bitcoin price prediction model that I did last year, I looked at 38 different pricing models for Bitcoin, and I arrived at a conclusion, as well as 2 of my own, of about $208,000 by the end of this year, barring any unforeseen gray swan, black swan events. So I'm still sticking with that, and Willy Woo is backing that up. In fact, sometimes he says it could even be a lot higher, depending on how you look at things like the stock-to-flow model. So let's jump deeper. Let's talk more about some more numbers. So breaking 1 trillion, that is the fully diluted market capitalization of Bitcoin. And that happened over the last 24 hours. $1 trillion. We are there. Now, first of all, you have to understand that fully diluted market capitalization is assuming 21 million Bitcoins times the price of Bitcoin. That gives you that $1 trillion. If you want to calculate the proper way, in my opinion, that is the amount of issued Bitcoin to date. Mined Bitcoin is about 18.65 million. You'd have to have a price of Bitcoin of about $53,000 a coin to reach $1 trillion. But either way, it's all psychological stuff. But we're there, which is quite staggering. Let's fast forward a little bit. I get a lot of questions from everybody. It's like, oh, when should I sell? When should I sell? It's moved up so fast, so high. I just want to give you some historical perspective. So 16th of February 2013, Bitcoin was at $27. The second halving occurred on the 9th of July 2016, and the price went to $658. That's a 24x. So what you see here is I've taken 4-year cycles and the period of where we are today and try forecast what's going to happen 4 years into the future. So 16th of February 2017, Bitcoin was at $1,000 basically. And the third halving happened and Bitcoin went to $8,572. That's an 8x. 16th of February 2021, we just hit $50,000. The fourth halving is going to occur on March 12th, 2024. The question is, where will we be and how high will Bitcoin be March 12th, 2024? Will it be $500,000 a coin? Many think so. In fact, many think it could be there a lot sooner. So again, if you're thinking about selling, don't. I had some people on Patreon who sold because of the little blip over the weekend where Bitcoin fell $4,000 and recovered fully in 25 hours. So please don't get shaken out. Buckle in. For some people, it may even be better not to even look at Bitcoin. Just buckle in, step away, and come revisit it in a couple of years. Or dollar cost average and get some more and accumulate over time. But don't get shaken out by the short-term volatility. It's only going to continue. I want to talk a bit about two worlds. So there are two worlds now occurring, both in the banking industry and the believers in Bitcoin and the non-believers. And Cathie Wood just said something very interesting. She says companies are disrupting the traditional world order like Tesla and Square and PayPal and MicroStrategy and others. And they believe it's wise to hedge their fiat reserves with Bitcoin. But other companies are in harm's way because of disruptive innovation, and they believe they should be investing their cash in new technologies to avoid creative destruction. Should they be investing in Bitcoin as a creative destruction element to prevent creative destruction? Or should they be investing in their own innovation to be able to survive going forward? I think she probably means both. Either way, it was an interesting point I just wanted to share with you all. And as you know, I'm a big believer in Cathie Wood. So, MicroStrategy, they're at it again. Oh my God, do they ever stop? Talk about being very bullish on Bitcoin. Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy decided to raise another 600 with an option to pulling in another 90 million. So call it $700 million to further invest in Bitcoin. They have already invested 1.1 billion, and that initial 1.1 billion investment they made last year is now worth $3.55 billion. So they made $2.5 billion already. Now, if they pull in another 600 with the option for 90 more, that would bring them another approximately 14,000 Bitcoins on top of their 71,000 they have today. So call it 85,000 Bitcoins. Now, to me, it's a bit of a no-brainer to borrow at 1% over a multi-year period, because during that multi-year period, odds are Bitcoin could easily 5 to 10x. So you're borrowing at 1% for a 500 to 1,000% return. It seems logical, but are they going too far? But let's look a little bit deeper at the numbers from MicroStrategy. So the Bitcoin holding, as I said, would be up to 85,000. That would bring, per my calculation, the Bitcoin to market capitalization ratio of 46.31%. That means the actual premium you're paying if you're using MicroStrategy as a way of buying Bitcoin, you'd be paying about 53% premium. However, if Bitcoin goes to $100,000, the fair market value of MicroStrategy, the intrinsic value that I calculated would be about $1,462 a share. And if Bitcoin goes to $200,000 a coin, the fair market value, the intrinsic value of MicroStrategy would be about $2,387 a share. But net, the big takeaway here is buying Bitcoin directly as a pure asset is the better way to go. But that being said, for those that don't have on-ramps to get access to Bitcoin, or they have different types of retirement vehicles that have very limited choices, it could be an option for some. Again, I was pounding the table at 290 for MicroStrategy, and I'm in at that price, and I have call options and naked puts on MicroStrategy. Anyway, Tesla and Bitcoin, another Treasury update. Tesla's unrealized gain on Bitcoin in 4 weeks is $700 million. I'm going to step back and they made $700 million in 4 weeks just by putting some money into Bitcoin. Well, $1.5 billion, a lot of money, but basically they're up a huge percentage already. They invested $1.5 billion. Their average cost is about $34,000 a coin. The number of Bitcoin they acquired, call it 44,000. The value today is 2.2 billion. The gain, 700. Just working on numbers now. Another way to think about that is the margin that they would get from selling about 150,000 vehicles. Another way to think about it, that $700,000 is 73 cents in earnings per share in just a month. 73% added to the earnings per share. Of course, it's an unrealized gain, but the company makes 63 cents a share today. So that is a huge return in a very short window. And again, all the other companies that are thinking about treasuries and Bitcoin, their heads will be exploding right now saying, ooh, why didn't we do that a month ago? So more information, more about what I call the crazy blue adoption now. It looks like all the big banks and money center banks and global banks are flooding in to Bitcoin. Too many to mention, but some of the biggest names that have jumped in recently, Julius Baer, BlackRock, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, Deutsche Bank, they all have blue logos with the exception of Bank of New York Mellon. So I don't know if it's a coincidence, all these blue logos, but maybe it's a good luck color. Anyway, the adoption is too crazy, and it's like almost become an arms race to get their hands on Bitcoin. In other good news, I call it the Fed few. So the Fed today said Bitcoin does not present a serious threat to the US dollar's status as the world's reserve. And as far as Jim Bullard thinks, he sees the dollar as that world's reserve currency as far as the eye can see. So he's not wearing glasses, but I'm very happy he's happy, so he doesn't muck with anything on the Bitcoin side. So it's good that they don't perceive it as a threat. Now, when Bitcoin hits over $500,000 a coin, they may come to a stark realization, maybe we need to look at this a little deeper. Anyway, good news for now. In some, of course, bad news, some still don't get it. So not everybody is bullish on Bitcoin, and looks like Michael Hartnett, the chief investment strategist at Bank of America, sees Bitcoin as the mother of all bubbles. Again, there'll always be non-believers, but hopefully one day they'll come on. It'll be very interesting in 5 years from now to look at the Bank of America stock price versus some of their peers that have adopted Bitcoin first. Like look at Bank of New York Mellon compared to Bank of America. I know they're a little bit different, but to see how they shape up over the next 5 years. Does it pay to embrace Bitcoin or avoid it like the plague? We shall see. I know where my money's at. Another final little piece of news. People are now paying for flights with Bitcoin. So what the C-19 pandemic has actually done, it's driven the need and demand for private jets. People no longer want to fly commercial. They don't want to go through airports, but they still want to go places. And why not use private jets? So little private airstrips, you can jump in an Uber, you pay $200 with crypto, and pay for your ticket with crypto now as well, and just fly to, say, from the Bay Area to Montana or San Diego or any of these cool places. No airports, no security checks, none of that. Pay with your Bitcoin and go. And I think that's only going to increase in popularity as we go forward. And I know a lot of people that have taken advantage of this already. And you can fly very cheap privately for like $200 down to San Diego one way. So it's not bad at all. In fact, it's cheaper than Southwest. So in conclusion, as always stick around for the conclusion. I'm going to summarize real quick here. Bitcoin continues to skyrocket, as does adoption. Treasuries are doubling down. It's become an arms race for people to get their hands on Bitcoin. The Fed does not perceive it as a threat, which is great news. And there is wider acceptance in Bitcoin as a form of payment. Not just Tesla announcing that they would accept Bitcoin, as a payment for their cars. But now little private charter jets are accepting payments in Bitcoin as well. So nothing but goodness everywhere we look. Big thank you to the Patreon community, patreon.com/investanswers. Love working with you every day. Think of me as the Swiss Army knife in your back pocket. And of course, to all the YouTube subscribers from the very beginning, since December to today, appreciate you all. Always watching the comments as well. These scammers are getting very clever, very aggressive. Just be very careful. I'll never ask you for anything. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.